Hi, and welcome to the Conan Fitness Platinum webinar of the month. We're looking at strength training and specifically adaptations for application into sport, application to physique, and even fat loss. They're not always associated together, strength and fat loss being together, but we'll go through some reasons as to why strength is beneficial to almost any application of physical endeavor. Even the furthest argument to that would be something like a really high endurance sport, like ultra endurance, long triathlons or long marathons. They're the ones who would most probably need strength the least, but even then there is still a place for strength where the greater strength throughout the body, as we'll go in, will increase efficiency as far as movement, so that there's not loss of movement in the skeleton, which you'll see. Decreasing wear and tear because of the strength around joints, and just increasing the longevity of muscles. But we'll go into that. When you think of a strong person versus a weak person, if you were to imagine two people, one strong and one weak, relative to body weight, doing the same workout, let's say they work out for half an hour or something like that, in that hour, the strong person, relative to body weight, is able to literally do more work, more volume. They're able to lift more weights, do more reps, climb more stairs, whatever it is, relative to their body weight, whether it's push-ups or squats. And that literally means that they are doing a higher workload and therefore expending greater calories. So from a caloric burn, weight loss or fat loss perspective, and not to mention muscle building. So even though someone might be relatively lifting a heavy weight relative to their effort, if the person next to them is lifting more weight, they're able to engage more muscle and therefore stimulate more muscle, and therefore have the better potential to grow muscle. So we're not talking about it from a perspective of getting big or bulky or whatever, as a lot of people want to steer away from strength training for that reason. We're just talking about making the chassis of the body strong. And when we talk about strength, we're ultimately talking about force output, the ability for a muscle to develop and execute or to execute contractile force. Now, when we talk about things like power and speed, they are very related to strength, because essentially it's all relative. When you think about speed, and not many people think strength and speed are together. Strength, you think of a Mack truck. Speed, you think of a Ferrari. But you need to be strong to be able to move a weight quickly, whether that's your body weight or an object. It's just relative to the weight. So if something's really heavy, you don't generally move it that fast just because it's heavy, but the stronger you are, the faster you can move it. And if a weight is light, like a Ferrari, compared to a truck, you can go fast, but that's the stronger you are, the faster it goes. Power is simply the combination of strength and speed. So it's a strong, fast strength, if you will. When we look at the neural side of strength, and this kind of gives us a better understanding how to apply it, or our training concepts for strength, whether it's in sport or fat loss or physique, we're talking about the motor unit. It's not a really clear picture, but the motor unit is a nerve and the muscle fibers that it innervates. And if you look at this example here, there's a muscle. We zoom in on the muscle, and you can see these fibers here. This is coming off the spinal cord, and there are many nerves that will come towards the muscle. But one nerve, like in this example, if you see one nerve might innervate all of these fibers. Now this specific nerve right here, if that nerve were to turn on, all of those three muscle fibers that it's innervating will turn on. They can't not turn on. It's like flicking a switch. You can't make some of the globes that wire goes to turn on and not the others. We could certainly turn this one on and not this one. But again, if we were to turn this second nerve on, then all of its associated muscle fibers will turn on. And we call these the nerve and its associated muscle fibers what we call motor units. And with strength, we're trying to activate, or what we call recruit, as many motor units as possible. So turning on all the nerves and all the nerve systems. So we're talking about quality, because when it comes to innervating them all, to do that when you're fatigued is really hard. You need a lot of neural drive. It's very neurological. The muscle is an important component, but so is the nerves when it's talking about strength training. The next thing of strength is to think of the body as a chassis, like the chassis of a car. If you were to look at, say, particularly the thorax, the spine, the shoulder blades, the pelvis, and the limbs that are attached to the pelvis, the lower limb, all of this whole structure as a skeleton is just wobbly and flaccid, and it will fall to bits if there weren't structural components holding it strong. And the muscles that act on those, like the muscles that pull on the leg and the pelvis, if this area moved, if it didn't have, what they might call core strength, if it were to move and not have the strength to hold the chassis while forceful muscle contraction or forceful production is happening around that joint, then the actual chassis itself will move, like the shoulder blades will move or the pelvis will move. And we don't want that to move. We want the pelvis to be nice and sturdy when the muscles that are attached to the pelvis and the leg, when they pull on it, they want to be pulling on a sturdy surface. And the classic example is this. They say you can't shoot a cannon from a canoe because if you see, it doesn't matter how much firepower we put in the cannon, if the base of support moves in this direction, I'll go back one. Then the force output of the object, the ball in this case, is lost because it's, some of the force is going this way and some of the force is going this way. But if we were to bolt this canoe into the ground, which is our equivalent of holding the pelvis sturdy or holding the shoulder blades or the thorax sturdy as those muscles act upon it, then the resultant force output is so much higher. And that's where strength comes into play a lot with the application into sport. So when we're talking strength, we are talking a high neural focus. We're talking quality, meaning you typically wouldn't be doing high repetitions. We typically talk 3, 4, 5 repetitions, sometimes as low as 1 or 2. But for the sake of getting quality, you want as many motor units, like in this example, recruited as possible. And to do that, we need to go high load. So getting right up near the 90, 95% or even max loads as far as heavy weight. Lifted with quality, because skill is also a component in strength. If it's not lifted right, then what we get here, if you can imagine this skeleton and the technique or the form during whether it's your sporting application or lifting weights or you're out on the track, if the form isn't right, then what we're getting is, what we want to ensure is that each component of the kinetic chain, that means the muscles that work together, are doing their anatomically predetermined share of the workload. And if that happens, then we're getting the greatest amount of efficiency, a greatest amount of force output and resultant force, not just the canoe moving, but the actual cannonball is getting fired in the direction that we want. And it also decreases injury, because that's the way to keep it as a safe movement, proper technique. What's the ultimate result? The ultimate result is better performance. So we're talking about strength. To wrap it up, we're talking about strength in the application to sport, because if you're strong, you're able to have better force output. That means relative to weight. If it's a heavy weight, you can move it with power. If it's a light weight, you can move it faster. And if it's your body weight, you can jump higher, run faster, change directions quicker. If it's physique or fat loss, remember we're talking about the better ability to stimulate muscle and therefore grow muscle, or the better ability to do more work in any given period or any workload. You're able to literally lift more weights or do more repetitions or lift your body weight more times, and that literally has a greater caloric burn because you're doing more volume, more work. And for those that know about EPOC, the excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, which is the wanky term of saying how much energy you burn after a training bout, well, that's also greater in stronger people because they're able to elicit a better or higher metabolic disturbance, if you will. So, putting it all together, when we're talking strength and the benefits, we're talking very highly neural, so think quality. Don't do it under fatigue. You do it typically at the start of the workout or training session. Do it you do need a certain amount of sets because you do want a certain amount of volume, but it's lots of sets of low repetitions, high weight, so as many motor units turning on as possible. You won't turn on any more motor units than you need to. So if it takes 3 motor units to lift 100 kilos, or 1 kilo, whatever it is, then you want to double that weight to lift 6 turn on 6 motor units. I'm making up numbers, but the point of it is that the higher weight or higher force required, the more motor units will be turned on. So if there are any questions relating to the strength or adaptations or application to sport or physique or fat loss, email us. We'd love to hear from you. Until then, until our next month's webinar, stay strong and bring out the warrior within.